They said I was being cruel when I divided my $2 million estate unequally among my 4 children. They called me vindictive, unfair, even senile. But they didn't know about the letters. They didn't know I'd been keeping track for 30 years. They didn't know that every single dollar, every single favor, every single broken promise had been carefully documented. My name is Margaret Chen, I'm 75 years old, and the reading of my will is in 3 days. Except I'm not dead. And what my children are about to discover will change everything they thought they knew about their mother. Welcome to Maee's Stories, where real life is stranger than fiction. My husband David died 15 years ago. Heart attack. He was 62, too young, too sudden. One moment he was laughing at dinner, the next he was gone. We had built everything together. A successful accounting firm, investments, properties, for children we raised with love and sacrifice. When he died, I thought the children would rally around me. I thought we would grieve together, support each other, become closer. I was wrong. The day after the funeral, my oldest son Richard came to the house. He was 45 then, a lawyer, always in expensive suits, always talking about his important cases. He sat across from me in David's chair, the chair that still smelled like my husband's cologne, and he asked about the will. "Mom, we need to discuss Dad's estate. There are tax implications. Legal matters that need immediate attention." I was still in shock. Still crying myself to sleep every night. Still finding David's reading glasses on the nightstand and forgetting, just for a moment, that he would never use them again. But Richard needed to discuss tax implications. I told him there was time. That we could handle it later. That I just needed space to breathe, to grieve, to process that the man I'd spent 47 years with was gone. Richard's jaw tightened. "Mom, you don't understand. Every day we wait costs money. We need to act now." We. As if David's death was a business transaction we were handling together. As if I was just another client in his law office. My second child, Jennifer, was 43. She had always been the sweet one, the peacemaker, the one who remembered birthdays and called every week. 3 days after the funeral, she came over with her husband Tom. They brought flowers and a casserole. We sat in the living room, the same living room where David and I had celebrated 47 Christmases, where we'd watched our children grow up, where we'd planned our future. Jennifer held my hand. She told me she loved me. She asked if I was eating enough, sleeping enough. Then Tom cleared his throat. "Margaret, Jennifer, and I have been talking. We're concerned about you being in this big house alone. It's too much for you. All these stairs, this yard. You should think about downsizing. Maybe moving into a nice senior community." Jennifer squeezed my hand. "We could help you find a place, Mom. Something manageable. And then we could sell the house. The market is really good right now." There it was. Underneath the concern, underneath the flowers and casserole, was the same thing. The estate. The money. What they would inherit. My third child, Michael, was 40. He'd always been the artistic one, the dreamer. He tried being a musician, then a painter, then a photographer. He'd never quite made it in any field, and David and I had supported him through it all. Paid his rent when gigs fell through. Bought him equipment. Believed in his dreams even when he stopped believing in them himself. Michael didn't come to the house. He called. Asked if I could wire him $10,000. His band had a chance to record an album, a real opportunity, but they needed to pay the studio up front. I asked him if this could wait. If maybe this wasn't the right time. "Mom, opportunities don't wait." Dad would have understood. Dad always believed in me. David had believed in him. But David had also told me, in the last year of his life, that maybe it was time to stop enabling Michael. That maybe he needed to stand on his own feet. That love sometimes meant saying no. But I was weak. I was grieving. I sent the money. My youngest, Rebecca, was 38. She'd always been my baby, the one I'd worried about most. She'd married young, divorced young, married again. She had 3 children from 2 different fathers. She worked as a receptionist at a dental office, barely making ends meet. Rebecca came over 2 weeks after the funeral. She brought the kids. They were loud, running through the house, touching everything. One of them knocked over a vase David had bought me for our 30th anniversary. It shattered on the hardwood floor. Rebecca barely noticed. She sat at the kitchen table while I cleaned up the pieces, my hands shaking, tears running down my face. Not because of the vase, but because David wasn't there. Because I was alone. Because everything was breaking. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." I sat down across from her, waiting. "The kids need a better school district. My apartment is in a terrible area. I've been looking at houses, and there's this perfect one, but I need help with the down payment. I was hoping Dad had left something. Or maybe you could help me." "How much?" $50,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's an investment. For your grandchildren. Dad would have wanted them to have better opportunities. Dad would have wanted. They all said that. As if they knew what David would have wanted better than I did. As if his death gave them permission to speak for him. I helped Rebecca. I gave her $60,000. Enough for the down payment and closing costs. She hugged me, told me I was the best mother in the world, promised to pay me back someday. She never did. That was 15 years ago. 15 years of watching my children come to me only when they needed something. 15 years of phone calls that started with "How are you?" and ended with "Can you help me with?" Richard needed $100,000 to invest in a real estate deal. "A sure thing," he said. Couldn't miss. I gave it to him. The deal fell through. He never mentioned paying me back. Jennifer needed $75,000 for her daughter's private college tuition. She said public school wasn't good enough for her granddaughter. That David would have wanted the best. I gave it to her. Her daughter dropped out after 2 years to find herself in Europe. Michael needed money constantly. Recording studios, music equipment, rent, car repairs, medical bills because he didn't have insurance. I stopped counting after $200,000. Rebecca needed money for everything. New cars, house repairs, her kids' activities, vacations to make memories. Another $150,000 over the years. I gave and gave and gave. Because that's what mothers do, right? Because I loved them. Because I didn't want them to struggle. Because I thought that somehow, someday, they would appreciate it. They would understand. They would say thank you. But they never did. The thank yous became routine, obligatory. The phone calls became shorter. The visits less frequent. Unless they needed something. I spent my 70th birthday alone. I'd mentioned it to all of them weeks in advance. I'd even said I'd love to have everyone over for dinner, all together, like we used to do when David was alive. Richard was busy with a case. Jennifer had a prior commitment. Michael was traveling for a gig. Rebecca's kids had activities. I sat alone in my dining room, looking at the table set for 6, and I realized something. I wasn't their mother anymore. I was their ATM. Their backup plan. Their safety net. But not their mother. That's when I started keeping track. I bought a notebook. A simple spiral notebook from the drugstore. And I started writing everything down. Every phone call. Every visit. Every request for money. Every broken promise. Every time they said they'd come and didn't. Every time they forgot my birthday, Mother's Day, holidays. I documented everything. Richard called me 17 times in 15 years. 13 of those calls were requests for money. The other 4 were on Christmas Day, obligatory check-ins that lasted less than 5 minutes. Jennifer visited me 42 times. 38 of those visits involved asking for something. Money, babysitting, help with some project. Only 4 were just to see me. Just to spend time with their mother. Michael called me constantly, but 90% of our conversations ended with him needing money. The other 10% were him canceling plans we'd made because something came up. Rebecca came by the most, but always with her children, always chaos, always leaving a mess behind. She asked me to watch the kids regularly but never asked how I was doing. Never noticed I was aging, that I was tired, that I was lonely. I also tracked the money. Every dollar I gave them. I had receipts, bank records, canceled checks, wire transfer confirmations. Everything documented, everything organized. In 15 years, I gave Richard $450,000. Jennifer received $380,000. Michael got $520,000. Rebecca took $440,000. Almost $1.8 million total. Money David and I had worked our entire lives to save. Money we'd invested carefully. Money we'd planned to leave our children so they'd be secure, so they'd have opportunities, so they'd remember us fondly. Instead, they took it while I was alive and forgot about me anyway. I also kept track of other things. The things money can't buy but mean everything. Richard missed my hospital stay when I had my gallbladder removed. Too busy with work. Jennifer forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. Michael borrowed my car and returned it damaged without apologizing or offering to fix it. Rebecca let her children destroy family heirlooms and never disciplined them, never apologized. None of them came to visit David's grave with me on our anniversary. I asked. They were all busy. I spent Thanksgiving alone twice. Christmas alone once. My 73 RD birthday completely forgotten by everyone except the waitress at the diner where I ate dinner by myself. The loneliness was crushing. Not the loneliness of being physically alone, but the loneliness of being forgotten. Of being useful only when needed. Of being loved conditionally. One night, about 6 months ago, I sat in my living room with all my notebooks spread out on the coffee table. 15 years of documentation. 15 years of evidence. And I made a decision. I called my lawyer, James Morrison. James had been David's friend and colleague for 40 years. He knew our family. He knew my children. I told him I wanted to change my will. James came to my house the next day. He sat where I'm sitting now, looked at all my notebooks, and listened while I explained everything. Every broken promise. Every ignored holiday. Every request for money. Every forgotten birthday. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Margaret, are you sure? This is going to cause problems. Your children will be angry." "James, they're already absent." "What's the difference between absent and angry?" He couldn't argue with that. We spent weeks working on the new will. It was complicated because I didn't just want to divide things differently. I wanted them to understand why. I wanted them to see themselves clearly, maybe for the first time in their lives. Here's what we created. The bulk of my estate, about $2 million after selling the house and liquidating investments, would be divided among my 4 children. But not equally. Richard would receive $50,000. Jennifer would receive $100,000. Michael would receive $25,000. Rebecca would receive $75,000. The remaining $1.75 million would be divided among various charities, organizations that help lonely seniors, programs that support the elderly, scholarships for students who actually finish college. But the amounts weren't the important part. The important part was the letters. I wrote a letter to each of my children. Long letters. Detailed letters. Letters that explained exactly why they were receiving what they were receiving. For Richard, I documented every missed visit, every business-only phone call, every time he treated me like a client instead of his mother. I reminded him of the $450,000 I'd given him and asked if he remembered that I never asked for it back, never asked for interest, never asked for anything except maybe a phone call once in a while that didn't involve money. For Jennifer, I listed every forgotten birthday, every fake promise to visit, every time she used her children as an excuse to avoid spending time with me. I reminded her that I paid $75,000 for her daughter's college tuition and her daughter dropped out. I asked her if she remembered that I never complained, never asked for the money back, never made her feel guilty. For Michael, I documented the $520,000. Every wire transfer. Every bailout. Every emergency that wasn't really an emergency. I reminded him that I believed in his dreams long after he stopped believing in them himself. I asked him when he'd last asked about my dreams, my life, my feelings. For Rebecca, I listed every mess her children made in my house, every time she treated me like free childcare, every crisis that needed my money but never my advice. I reminded her that I gave her $60,000 for a house and she never invited me over. Not once. I asked her if she realized I'd never seen her house, the house I helped her buy. But I didn't stop at criticism. I also wrote about love. I told each of them that I loved them. That I always would. That nothing would change that. But love doesn't mean being a doormat. Love doesn't mean accepting whatever crumbs of attention they felt like giving. Love doesn't mean funding their lives while they forgot about mine. I told them I forgave them. But forgiveness doesn't mean there are no consequences. It just means I wasn't going to carry anger anymore. I was setting it down. They could pick it up if they wanted, but that was their choice. I also wrote about David. About how much he'd loved them. About how proud he'd been of them. About how, in his final year, he'd started to worry that maybe we'd given them too much. That maybe we'd made things too easy. That maybe they'd never learn to stand on their own. He'd been right. James read all the letters. When he finished, his eyes were wet. Margaret, this is powerful. But you know they're going to be devastated. James, they've been devastating me for 15 years. They just never noticed. We finalized everything. The new will was legally sound. The letters were sealed in individual envelopes. Everything was ready. But then I had another idea. What if I didn't wait until I was dead? What if I let them know now? What if I gave them a chance to change before it was too late? James advised against it. Margaret, if you do this now, you'll have to live with the fallout. Are you sure you want that? I thought about it for a long time. Days. Weeks. I went back and forth. Finally, I decided. Yes. I wanted to do it now. Because maybe, just maybe, there was still time. Maybe they could change. Maybe they could learn. Maybe we could have a real relationship in whatever years I had left. Or maybe not. But at least I would have tried. I planned it carefully. I sent each of my children a formal letter from James's office. An invitation to a family meeting to discuss my estate. Very official. Very businesslike. The kind of thing that would get their attention. All four of them confirmed. Of course they did. This was about money, about inheritance. They wouldn't miss it. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday, 3 weeks from today. 10 in the morning at James's office conference room. I told them to come alone. No spouses. No children. Just us. Just the family. The next part of my plan was harder. I decided I needed to see them before the meeting. Not to talk to them, just to observe them. To see who they really were when they didn't think I was watching. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Margaret Chen. She was in her 40s, professional, discreet. I told her what I wanted. I wanted to know how my children really lived. What they did with their time. Whether they were happy. Whether the money I'd given them had actually helped. Sarah delivered her report after 2 weeks. Richard lived in a massive house in the suburbs. 6 bedrooms. Pool. 3-car garage. His wife drove a Mercedes. His kids went to the most expensive private school in the state. He took clients to 5-star restaurants and billed them for it. He belonged to an exclusive country club. He was wealthy. Very wealthy. Far wealthier than he'd ever let me know. The $450,000 I'd given him over the years? He didn't need it. He'd invested it, made more money, used it to look even more successful. Meanwhile, he'd told me he was struggling, that his practice was barely breaking even, that he needed help. Jennifer lived in a beautiful colonial in a gated community. Her husband was a surgeon. They took vacations to Europe every year. Jennifer drove a BMW. She had a cleaning service, a gardener, a personal trainer. She shopped at boutiques where a single dress cost more than I spent on groceries in a month. The $380,000 I'd given her? She'd used it to maintain a lifestyle she couldn't quite afford on her husband's salary alone. The college tuition I'd paid? Her husband could have covered it. They just didn't want to. It was easier to ask Mom. Michael was the only one who actually looked like he was struggling. He lived in a small apartment. His car was old. But Sarah noticed something interesting. Every Thursday night, Michael played poker with friends. High-stakes poker. And he lost. A lot. The money I'd been sending him for rent, for car repairs, for emergencies? He was gambling it away. Rebecca's report was the saddest. She'd bought a house with the money I gave her. But it was mortgaged to the hilt. She'd refinanced twice, pulling out equity each time to fund her spending. Designer purses. Expensive restaurants. A boat they used twice. Her kids had more toys than they could play with and more clothes than they could wear. She was drowning in debt but refused to change her lifestyle. And whenever things got tight, she called me. I read Sarah's reports 3 times. Each time, I felt something hardening inside me. It wasn't anger exactly. It was clarity. They didn't need me. They'd never needed me. They just wanted me. Wanted my money. Wanted the security of knowing Mom would bail them out. Wanted to live beyond their means because they had a safety net. I put the reports in my safe. More evidence. More documentation. More truth they'd probably never wanted me to see. The days leading up to the meeting crawled by. I barely slept. I went over the plan in my head constantly. I imagined their reactions. I played out different scenarios. Would they cry? Would they yell? Would they apologize? Would they blame me? Would they see themselves in my words, or would they just see a cruel mother taking away their inheritance? I didn't know. But I knew I had to do it. 3 days before the meeting, something unexpected happened. Jennifer called me. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" I was immediately suspicious. Jennifer never just called to chat. "I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you?" "Good, good. Listen, I was thinking. It's been a while since we had lunch together. Just you and me. Would you want to do that sometime?" My heart jumped. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe she did care. Maybe this meeting wasn't necessary. That would be lovely. When were you thinking? How about next week? After your meeting with James? We could celebrate being done with all that legal stuff. And there it was. She wasn't calling to see me. She was calling to butter me up before the meeting. To make sure she stayed in my good graces. To protect her inheritance. Sure, Jennifer. That sounds nice. Great. I'll call you after. Love you, Mom. Love you too. I hung up and felt that hardness inside me solidify into stone. The next day, Michael called. He needed $5,000 for new recording equipment. A great opportunity. Had to act fast. I told him no. There was silence on the line. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no, Michael. I'm not giving you any more money." "But Mom, this is important. This could really be my break." "You said that about the last 5 things I funded." "The answer is no." "I don't understand. Are you okay? Is something wrong?" "I'm fine, Michael. I'm just done." "Done with what?" "We'll discuss it at the meeting." I hung up before he could argue. Rebecca texted me asking if I could watch the kids this weekend. She and her husband wanted a date night. I texted back, "Not available." She called immediately. "Mom, what do you mean you're not available? You never have plans." "I have plans now." "What plans?" "That's not your concern, Rebecca." "Are you mad at me? Did I do something wrong?" "We'll talk about it at the meeting." "What meeting?" "The one James Morrison invited you to. Did you forget already?" "Oh, that. That's just about boring estate stuff. This is about this weekend." "The answer is no, Rebecca. Find another babysitter." She hung up without saying goodbye. Richard didn't call. Richard never called unless he wanted something, and he apparently didn't want anything this week. Saturday finally arrived. I woke up at 5 in the morning. I couldn't sleep anyway, so I got up, made coffee, and watched the sun rise over the trees in my backyard. The same backyard where David and I used to have breakfast on weekends. The same backyard where we'd watched our children play when they were small. I wondered what David would think of what I was about to do. Would he approve? Would he think I was being too harsh? Would he understand? I thought he would. In his last year, he'd started to see what I was seeing. The way the kids only came around when they wanted something. The way they treated us like an obligation rather than people they loved. He'd wanted to say something, to do something, but he died before he could. I was doing it for both of us. I dressed carefully. A navy blue suit. Professional. Strong. The grandmother they expected to see, the one who nodded and smiled and gave them what they wanted, was staying home today. James picked me up at 9:30. His conference room was on the 3rd floor of a downtown office building. Large windows overlooking the city. A huge mahogany table. Leather chairs. Very impressive. Very intimidating. Good. My children arrived separately. Richard first, exactly on time, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase as if this were just another client meeting. Jennifer came next, dressed like she was going to lunch at a country club. Michael showed up 10 minutes late, unshaven, wearing jeans. Rebecca arrived last, harried and apologizing, saying the babysitter had been late. They sat around the table. Richard at one end. Jennifer and Rebecca on one side. Michael across from them. I sat at the head of the table with James beside me. Finally, James cleared his throat. Thank you all for coming. I know you're busy, and I appreciate you making time. Your mother has asked me to facilitate this meeting because she has something important to discuss with you regarding her estate. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me. Expectant. Probably thinking I was about to tell them I was sick, dying, that we needed to prepare. I looked at each of them. My children. For lives I had brought into this world, raised, loved, sacrificed for. I'm not dying, I said. I'm healthy. The doctors say I could easily live another 15 or 20 years. Relief washed over their faces. Good. They didn't want me dead. That was something, I suppose. However, I've made some changes to my estate plan, and I wanted you to know about them while I'm alive. I wanted to explain my reasoning. I wanted to give you a chance to understand. Richard shifted in his seat. Mom, that's not necessary. Estate planning is private. You don't owe us an explanation. You're right. I don't owe you an explanation. But I'm going to give you one anyway. James slid a folder in front of each of them. Inside these folders, you'll find a copy of my new will and a letter I've written to each of you. The letters are different because your relationships with me are different. I'd like you to read them now. Take your time. When everyone is finished, we'll talk. Jennifer opened her folder first. Always the eager one, always wanting to please. Her eyes scanned the first page, the will, and I saw her face change. Confusion. Then shock. Then something that looked like panic. Richard opened his next. His lawyer brain was probably reading faster than the others. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. Michael and Rebecca opened theirs together. Michael's face went pale. Rebecca started crying before she even finished the first page. The room was silent except for the sound of turning pages and Rebecca's quiet sobs. I waited. Mom, I don't understand. Why am I only receiving $50,000? Jennifer is getting double that. What did I do wrong? Read the letter, Richard. I did read it. It's full of complaints about phone calls and visits. But I'm busy, Mom. I have a demanding career. I thought you understood that. I do understand that. What I don't understand is why you never told me how successful that career actually is. He blinked. What? You're a millionaire, Richard. You drive a luxury car, live in a mansion, belong to a country club. Yet for 15 years, you've been telling me you're struggling. That you need help. That times are tight. You took $450,000 from me under false pretenses. His face flushed. Did you have me investigated? Yes. That's a violation of privacy. That's a mother trying to understand why her son lies to her. Why her son treats her like a bank. Why her son can't spare an hour for lunch but can spend 5 hours on the golf course. Jennifer spoke up, her voice shaky. Mom, I don't understand my letter either. I visit you. I call you. You called me 63 times in 15 years, Jennifer. 38 of those calls were to ask for money or favors. You visited me 42 times. On 38 of those visits, you asked for something. The other 4 times, you stayed less than half an hour. I don't keep track like that. How do you even? I kept track, Jennifer. For 15 years, I wrote down every interaction we had. Every phone call. Every visit. Every broken promise. I have notebooks full of documentation. Michael finally spoke. His voice was hoarse. Mom, the letter says you know about the gambling. I do. How? I hired an investigator. I wanted to know why you needed so much money. Now I know. You've been gambling away my help, Michael. Money I gave you for rent, for food, for your music career. You took it to poker games. His face crumpled. I have a problem, Mom. I need help. You've needed help for 20 years, Michael. I've been trying to give it to you. But help doesn't mean enabling an addiction. Help means tough love. Something I should have given you a long time ago. Rebecca's voice came out in a wail. Why am I only getting $75,000? What did I do? Read your letter, Rebecca. I can't read it. It's too cruel. It's not cruel. It's honest. I documented every time you used me as free childcare without asking if it was convenient. Every time your children destroyed something in my home and you didn't discipline them or apologize. Every crisis you had that somehow always required my money. You're $200,000 in debt, Rebecca. $200,000. Despite me giving you $440,000 over the years. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I can't help it if I'm not good with money. I'm trying my best. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're living beyond your means and expecting me to make up the difference. Richard stood up. This is outrageous. You can't do this. I already did. The will is signed. It's legal. James has confirmed it. Money your father and I worked for, I corrected. Money we planned to leave you so you'd be secure. But you are secure, Richard. You don't need it. None of you need it. But there are people who do. Senior citizens sitting alone in nursing homes because their children forgot about them. Elderly people who can't afford their medication. Programs that help people who actually want help, not just handouts. Jennifer was crying now too. Mom, please. This isn't fair. We love you. Do you? When was the last time you spent time with me just because you wanted to? Not because you needed something. Not because it was a holiday. Just because you wanted to see your mother. Silence. That's what I thought. Michael's voice was barely a whisper. What do you want from us? I looked at him. At all of them. My children. My flesh and blood. People I had loved unconditionally for their entire lives. I want you to see me. Not as a bank account. Not as a safety net. Not as an obligation. As a person. As your mother. As someone who has feelings and needs and dreams that don't revolve around you. We do see you, Rebecca insisted. No, you don't. Let me prove it. What's my favorite color? They looked at each other. Blue? Jennifer guessed. It's yellow. It's been yellow my entire life. You just never asked. What's my favorite food? My favorite movie? My favorite season? What do I do on weekends? What am I afraid of? What makes me happy? More silence. You don't know because you never asked. In 15 years, not one of you has asked me about my life unless it related to how I could help with yours. Richard sat back down. His anger seemed to deflate into something else. Shame, maybe. Or just the realization that he couldn't lawyer his way out of this. So what now? He asked quietly. Now you know. Now you understand that actions have consequences. That treating someone badly, even if that someone is your mother, doesn't mean they have to accept it forever. Are you saying you don't love us anymore? Rebecca's voice was small, childlike. I love you. I'll always love you. But I don't like the people you've become. I don't like being used. I don't like being forgotten. And I won't fund it anymore. Jennifer wiped her eyes. Can we fix this? Is there a way to fix this? I don't know. That depends on you. What do you mean? I'm not dead yet. The meeting says what happens after I'm gone. But I'm here now. What you do now, how you treat me now, that's up to you. The inheritance is set. But our relationship? That could still change. If you want it to. Michael leaned forward. I want it to. I swear, Mom. I want to be better. I want to be the son you deserve. Then be that son. Get help for your gambling. Stop lying to me. Start showing up, not because you need something, but because you want to see me. I looked at each of them. Richard, I don't need you to call me every day. But once a month, a real conversation, that's not too much to ask. And honesty. I need honesty. Jennifer, I don't need expensive gifts or elaborate gestures. I need time. Real time. Where we actually talk. Where you ask about my life and care about the answer. Rebecca, I love your children. But I'm not free childcare. I'm their grandmother. That means special occasions and fun memories. Not babysitting duty while you go out every weekend. And you need to get your finances under control. I won't enable your debt anymore. They were all crying now. Even Richard had tears in his eyes. I know this is hard to hear, I said, my own voice breaking. I know it hurts. But it hurt me too. For 15 years, it hurt. And I kept quiet because I didn't want to be the difficult mother. The demanding mother. The mother who expected too much. But silence didn't help any of us. It just let things get worse. James handed me a tissue. I hadn't realized I was crying. I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm doing this because I love you. Because I want better for all of us. Because I don't want to spend my final years being lonely while you're just down the road. Because I don't want you to look back after I'm gone and realize you never really knew your mother. The meeting lasted another hour. There were more tears, more questions, more explanations. James answered the legal questions. I answered the personal ones. By the end, something had shifted. Not fixed. Not healed. But shifted. Like the first crack in ice that's been frozen solid. As we were leaving, Jennifer hugged me. A real hug. Not the quick obligatory kind. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I didn't see. I didn't realize. I know, sweetheart. Can I take you to lunch? Real lunch. No agenda. Just us. I'd like that. Richard shook my hand. Formal. Stiff. But there was something in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Respect. I need time to process this, Mom. But I hear you. I do. Michael hugged me tight. I'm going to get help. Real help. I promise. I hope so, Michael. I really do. Rebecca was still crying. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to fix this. One day at a time, Rebecca. That's all any of us can do. James drove me home. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? I detonated a bomb in my family. The fallout would take years to settle. Continue 12:58. But as I walked into my house, the house that felt so empty for so long, I felt something I hadn't felt in 15 years. Peace. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just peace. The peace of having told the truth. The peace of having stood up for myself. The peace of knowing I'd done what needed to be done. That was 3 days ago. Since then, Jennifer has called twice. Just to talk. Real conversations about real things. Richard hasn't called, but he sent email. Professional. Distant. But it acknowledged what had happened. It was a start. Michael enrolled in Gamblers Anonymous. He sent me the meeting schedule. Proof. An attempt. Rebecca came by yesterday. Without the kids. We had tea. We talked. She cried some more. But she also listened. Really listened. Are we fixed? No. Are we healing? Maybe. Will things ever be the way I wish they'd been all along? Probably not. But I don't regret what I did. Not for a second. Because for the first time in 15 years, my children are seeing me. Not my bank account. Not my usefulness. Me. Margaret Chen. A woman. A mother. A person with value beyond what she can give. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 75 years old. And I just taught my children the most important lesson I should have taught them decades ago. That love isn't about money. It's about respect, attention, and genuine care. It's about showing up. It's about remembering. It's about seeing the people you claim to love as real human beings, not resources. The inheritance isn't fair. I know that. But life isn't fair. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for your children is let them face consequences. Let them understand that being family doesn't give you unlimited access to someone's generosity. Let them learn, even if it's late, what really matters. This is Mae's Stories. If my story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? How did it go? Your stories matter too. Remember, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to demand respect. And it's never too late to teach people how to treat you, even if those people are your own children. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You deserve it.